Well, that was quick. And here we are. It is live talk with Becky Chernek, F&I Trends. Yay. And boy, I do have an exciting lineup tonight. But before we go there, if you're new to this channel, I'm Becky Chernek, and I have been providing the very best in finance and insurance training for auto dealers throughout the USA, as well as in Canada. And I founded my company a long time ago in 2001. And as I said, we are broadcasting live. We are broadcasting on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, of course. Now, if you happen to be watching us tonight, and I hope that you are, and if you like us, which I hope that you will, go ahead and hit that like button, go ahead and share, and make it a point to subscribe. So, as I said, I've got a great lineup tonight. Steve Apicella, he is here tonight. He is the Chief Executive Officer for Strategic DX. And then, boy, let me tell you, I have Paul Machin here, and he is Mr. Black Book, and he has got the data to back it up with. So watch out. So getting started here, Steve Apicella, if you would talk to us a little bit about what's going on in your world. You just came back from Digital Dealer, and boy, let me tell you, a lot of good stuff there happening. And how does this help us or help dealers, affect dealers when it comes to some of the changes going on in the industry right now? How about it, Steve?
Yeah, thanks, Becky. And anybody who doesn't know Becky, you should. She is great at what she does, and she makes a difference. So do that. Follow her, subscribe. Really, really, really a smart thing to do. You know, with what we're doing with our Your Dealer Experience platform is our mantra, as I've said a bunch of times, is connect the disconnected, because there's a lot of disconnected stuff. I think our industry is doing a lot of things well. But I think there's lots of gaps where we can really improve. And this is where, we focused our energy at, is doing things like F&I, which is a critical financial cornerstone for every dealership. And if that's true, and if the associated customer experience is valuable to a dealer and the loyalty back to their dealership is valuable from F&I, if all that exists, why do we leave all that value to just the micro moment of the F&I menu presentation alone? It's ridiculous. And the answer is, it's because that's where the only process really exists. That's right. And so what we've done is figured out how to, take that revenue runway and extend it past the point of sale, so that all the consumers that go through that process, they may see value, but maybe just in that tiny moment, they couldn't make a decision because of timing or funding or fatigue or whatever. Is that where all the value of F&I should reside alone? And then the second part of that, which is equally important, is F&I would love to be offered on the service drive and service advisors. I talk to service advisors all the time, but service advisors can't offer a customer something they don't have if they don't know what they already have. And this is a big gap in our industry, is that when a dealership sells a customer F&I products, nobody else knows. It's like the world's greatest secret. And it's not in the DMS platform, and the administrators don't have a real good mechanism, or if they do have a mechanism, it only works with them in an environment where there's always multiple administrators in one dealer. So we've created the process to solve that too. So you can show a customer or a service advisor on behalf of a customer, here's all the F&I products you did buy in one digital view in a dealer branded app, provide a digital claim pathway for each of them, even if there's multiple administrators. And then by organic extension, also show the customer or the service advisor all the products they didn't buy. And God forbid, allow them to learn about them with full disclosure and even buy or fund them right on their smartphone. So, it's this vast vacancy, and there's so much that happens after the sale. Becky, you talk about this with refi, right? Somebody's capturing that, but the dealer's not participating until you engage somebody like Becky. And the same thing with F&I. There's a whole industry built to capture everything that the dealer did a poor job at capturing in that micro moment.
Well,
what do you do thereafter? Yeah.
Well, Thank you so much. And I couldn't agree with you more. And we talk about some of these unconventional, if you would, alternative solutions. And we talk about you and we talk about Paul a bit because, the reality of it is you wouldn't be here if you weren't thinking unconventional 3 years ago or when I first had a chance to really dive into who you are and what you were providing. And it was just so amazing. It was actually hard for me to talk about. I went to Ted Ing's Fixed Ops Roundtable in New York, and I'm like, I got this. I am going to talk about Steve Apicella. I'm going to talk about his technology, but it was so new and it was so impressive. And this is the idea. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Unconventional alternative solutions that make a big, big difference. And
Isn't
you did.
it interesting, Becky and Paul, that, when people talk about these things, these unconventional approaches, well, first of all, it's just in any economic reality, is this a good idea? Right? I know we'll talk a lot today about, what may today hold or the future hold. But I think the best solutions transcend all that. Like, irregardless of what the future holds, is this a smart idea to do in any reality? And when I talked to the leaders in the industry, I had one, again, that very happy to meet, somebody, I won't say their name, but so they said, this isn't the future of automotive retail, which made me pause and my heart skipped a beat. They said, this is the way it should have always been. Like, the process was too limited and always has been. And we're teaching customers over and over and over again. Everybody knows this. I mean, everybody likes to say we're in the relationship business, but the truth is we're in the transaction business, primarily by our actions. And our actions are like, even digital retailing, for example. I don't care what you think about digital retailing. Get over it. It's smart just to cast a wider net. It doesn't mean lock the front doors at the dealership. It doesn't mean don't do in-person customer engagement. It just means if there's people out there that want to engage digitally, that's a good idea. Why not, right? But then the problem with that is the associated experience that comes with digital retailing abruptly ends at the point of sale. So what does that tell a customer? It says the transaction and therefore the relationship is done. Mm-hmm. And that's what we have to do better as an industry. If it's our intent as an industry to also earn a recurring customer beyond the one-time transaction, then leadership and action and process is required. Otherwise, that's just a fantasy. Can't do that.
So here's the thing. I do look at this, and I have the chance to meet with industry experts such as yourself and talk through and think through some of these ideas and strategies that can help impact this F&I untapped revenue, right? And you certainly you come to my mind all the time when I think through that. But I also talk through, okay, well, we are now in a crisis, okay, an affordability crisis in the United States. So I really want to be careful about this because I don't want to say something that's not the case. I don't want to come across as one of those. Well, she's running for what are they, ambulance chasers type thing? Yeah, she's just doing this to get that buzz out there. I'm not all about that buzz so much. I am about really bringing good content in, relevant content that makes sense. So what's happening there? Is it real? Is this real? Is there a true affordability crisis here in the United States? Paul, what are your thoughts there?
We certainly do have an affordability crisis, as we discussed a couple of weeks ago.
That's it. Yeah,
we put it on the table. We put all the cards out there and said, this is the average national income that the average person makes. This is what the average mortgage payment is, what their average car loan payment would be, and that they're maxed out. I think the intention was to figure out how far the American consumer can be stretched. And so the reality is we're stretched. The majority of the people who are below the line, that 50% or less, they're struggling. Under 75,000 is really the number now. If you're under 75,000 in today's high inflation rate and mortgage market, boy, it's a
hard place to be. Yeah,
it's a hard place to be. I mean, I saw an elderly couple not too long ago in the grocery store struggling, counting out pennies. to buy stuff. And I was like, stop, put it away.
Okay, so this is real. This is not something made up because Becky wants to push an agenda or that Steve wants to go ahead and push an agenda. Anyone here. What I want to do is I want to help dealers to make a greater impact. And we've got to understand and embrace that there is this true affordability crisis here in the United States. So it stands to reason that we have to come up with other options, whether it be, as Steve pointed out, digital retailing, getting the customer on the right car from the very beginning.
Right.
That to me seems logical. Why would we want to do it any other way? Why would we want to wait until the customer comes into the dealership, put the customer on the wrong car that they likely would be able to get approved and be able to buy? Why would we want to do that? So it does stand to reason. And then the other night we were talking on After Dark, I think, Steve, on Ted Ings.
Yep.
And Brooke Furness, I met with Brooke, and she's going to be on tonight when she gets done with this appointment. And she was also talking about her frustration as far as dealers being able to communicate, engage with the customer online, but bridging that gap between online to what's taking place in dealership. And I wonder the same thing. Why do we have such a hard time with this? But that's one way to approach this, along with additional training, along with training our salespeople. Ask for more money down. Cash is king. We all know that. Let's do a better job with that. But also unconventional options such as refinancing and thinking different about refinancing options or rethinking different about leasing options.
Well, Becky, Steve led to why are we experiencing the challenge we have with adapting as quickly as we need to. Your dealer said it the best. It should have been this way a long time ago.
Yep.
But there have been technology and there have been businesses that have created some of the really unique ways to run businesses. Digital retailing has been around for almost 20 years. And if you think about it, right? Just the two disconnects are is when technology is ahead of what the population is ready to receive and adopt, then it flounders. What we have today since the pandemic is the research. There's been a surge in adoption of using technology, not just on the mobile phone, but laptop and websites and wherever else that we might engage and use technology. A friend of mine called me and goes, dude, remember when you said that I'd go to a McDonald's and I wouldn't see anybody behind the counter? All I had to do is just type in my order and then my food will come out down at a tray down the road. I'm like, yeah. He goes, I just did that. It's a McDonald's franchise in South Florida. Nobody working in the front. You do everything on that's technology. Wow. But it's accepted today because now people are ready to embrace it.
But one of the things, and I haven't thought about this in advance, so just bear with me here. But I think it's a Apple Steve Jobs-ism topic, which is you got to figure out the desired result before the technology and work backwards from there, right? Like, what are you intending to do, and then work backwards from there. I think one of the things, and I'm an advocate for digital retailing. Like I said, I don't do digital retailing in the conventional sense to acquire a customer. I use digital in order to retain and create the lifetime value of a customer. But the problem with digital retailing is, isn't it crazy that there's this rush now to, okay, we've got digital retailing. Now we've got to figure out how to make it work in the in-store process. Why was that the last thing considered? I mean, It should have been, how do we make the sales floor an extension into digital retailing and work backwards from there, right? It's just totally illogical. It's the same for us. It's, when you look and you see the problem, which is like, why does F&I only exist in that micro moment? Doesn't make any sense. And then when you dig into it, it's like, okay, somebody created that process for that one-time transaction, and there's nothing else thereafter. And nobody, even though these are service contracts, which by definition are contracts for service, nobody's put any horsepower into the service side of it. It's just like, you call a 1-800 number, different for each administrator, and phone queues and called wait times and manual claim processing. And worse, the service advisor has no damn clue on what was sold in the F&I office. That's ridiculous, right?
Well,
So
let's
we got to think about how to work backwards from that. But
Yeah.
the one other point I wanted to make on that real quick, Becky, is if just self-reflective, right? I think we have a great industry. I think our dealer practitioners out there are working hard and they're trying to do the right thing.
Mhm.
But when you look on the surface, if a customer goes to a dealer's website, what are you in the business of doing? You know, how much of the website is about selling a car and how much is about anything thereafter? If you go to a dealer's website, 99% of it is about selling you a car. And there might be a page that wasn't updated for 4 years about something thereafter.
right.
Customers look at that and they're like, okay, they're here to sell me a car. And at the end of you sold me a car and I bought a car, I think that's it, right? That's the way it feels. But I think, you know, one thing I wanted to dig into, I know the cost of cars is moving with inflation too. Paul, and I know we talked about, you know, the latest data might not be out on that yet, but wouldn't you think that those who have inventory of practically minded cars are probably going to be the ones that are going to thrive in this new reality?
They will absolutely be, right? Because what's coming is people want to have an affordable vehicle. So what's an affordable vehicle today? You know, it's not 25,000, that's for sure, right? And then to get a $25,000 vehicle, you have to go a little older, and then that becomes more difficult to finance. So then now you have to really think in terms of the right year, make, model, mileage, in the right condition that I can buy and sell and still be able to finance it for 4 to 6 years. If it's already a 5-year-old vehicle, I still need to be able to finance it for 4 to 6 years. One of the things that I've been promoting for a long time is that we can talk about alternative and unconditional methods to do business is alternative sourcing environments, because of the limited availability of the quality type pre-owned vehicles that dealers will need to backfill the shortage of new vehicle inventory they won't be getting in 2023 and in 2024. We're still going to be very short of our normal production pre-pandemic levels, right? So in order to offset, because a dealer needs to thrive, they have to sell on average 130 new and used a month to thrive. So now if I'm not getting my normal supply of new vehicle inventory, I have to backfill that with my used. And if I can't really replenish that sufficiently just by going to the auction, then I have to find it elsewhere. And 35% of all vehicles on the road are 2011 through 2017. They fill a desperate need for our dealers to thrive in the next couple of years. Number one, they're great service vehicles. And guess what? They're not going into those dealerships to be serviced. You know, I challenge any dealer, buy a registration list. And if you need a partner, I can refer you to someone who has registration data for 2011 through 2017 model vehicles that are within 20 miles of your dealership. And I would be willing to guarantee less than 2% of that list actually visits your dealership for service. And you are the brand, and you're not seeing them. But beyond that, service them all, because you would need access to all. Consumers are less and less brand loyal, and they're more trust loyal. And what I mean by that is when they get a sense of this service department I trust them. They will take care of me. They'll take care of my family. I'll bring all my vehicles to them. When I ran my Saturn stores, I was servicing every make and model vehicle in the 90s, every single make and model, because once I got the first one and they realized the level of touch points we delivered and the quality of the service we delivered, they started bringing us all their service. So going after the 2011 through 2017 model year on the service side generates an incredible opportunity. Then
I have a question.
Yeah.
What's happening with the interest of the floor rates? What's going on there?
Well, as interest rates go up, the floor rates go up.
Yeah. And so how is that impacting the new car volume showing up? Where are we in that piece? Are dealers selling more than new car? Are we Are we stocking up? What's happening with that? What's happening? My understanding, again, you're Mr. Black Book, as Steve calls you.
Welcome, Paul.
Because I am
I'm
not.
humbled by that. Thank you.
So what's happening with this used car volume? Are we down in volume? What's happening? Dropping price? Where are we at with that whole thing?
So our season, I think we're kind of normalizing on a seasonal basis. So back in first week of August, I warned all of our audience, our dealers, start selling your inventory out now. If you have anything, sell it now, because and my prediction is from the first week of August through November the 8th, we will see a 12 to 15% drop in wholesale acquisition price.
Wholesale, okay.
Our retail market pricing is pretty stat. We're still right about 136%. Actually, we're about 134% of retail asking price compared to what we could ask for that same vehicle in January 2021. Right, so we index everything to every January. So what that means is that the wholesale price of inventory is coming down, but I'm holding firm on my retail pricing. So we're seeing it's a little low on used vehicle sales, but there are being sold at those prices. However, our days to turn has jumped up by 33 days. We were in the 30s. Actually, we were right about 30 days to turn in first week of August. We're now at 43 days to turn.
How much?
43 days to turn, which
So
is still
43
good.
day from a 30 day, but that's not bad. It's not bad from a
Right,
turn, but I know dealers who turn vehicles but I'm sure some of that changed with this whole dynamic.
But that shows
They
you
were
slowing
15-day turn, and now it's a 30-day turn, which was pretty darn good, right? Considering the inventory and what they've been dealing with. So, okay. Well, okay. So now we're at 43. And so do you think that there is some impact when it comes to customer affordability on some of these vehicles? Meaning, I think you and I had a conversation earlier too about lender approvals and
Yeah.
where is that going?
Yeah, well, as interest rates go up, it becomes more difficult to match a payment. So you either have to extend your term, get more down payment, or discount your vehicle. Well, dealers are less likely to discount right now, even though they really should, because they really need to get rid of their inventory. Because I don't think we're going to see a return to rising car prices like we have for the last year and a half. So that's the first thing. The second thing I think that they need to do is understand that the consumer really doesn't have that pocket anymore. When you take a look at gas prices, inflation, and the rising cost of interest. I had to tell this recently to a neighbor. Says, I want to go buy a car, right? How do I quickly calculate what my payment's going to be? I said, well, it's easy.
Yeah.
For every $5,000 you want to borrow on a 72-month loan, it's $83 a month. Then you got to add your interest, taxes, tag, and title. He goes, why do I got to do that? I said, well, you got to pay interest, right? He goes, well, isn't 0% still available? I'm like, no, interest rates are up. And so you got to figure
there's subvented rates out, all that going out the window. And, so that really is making a negative impact in this whole thing. So this is why I don't understand what's so hard to understand as far as a process where we are looking at customers' existing auto loans that if they're not trading in, of course, we're going to try to trade them out. Okay, fine. I like that idea. Trade them out. I'm good with that all day long. Well, what happens if they don't want to trade out? But if we could lower their payment, why wouldn't you want to consider doing that?
Right.
Not everyone bought a vehicle or financed the vehicle 2% for crying out loud, right?
No,
I mean,
no, that's
so
right.
and in fact, I know this because here again, I have a dealer who's like, Becky, I'm doing this with you. I like you. I buy into you. I've had this dealer relationship for a long time. And he's like, you know what? We're doing this deal. Well, wouldn't you know it? Here he has a customer that went from 16, 17%. This is ridiculous. This is crazy. went from 16, 17% to 7% finance charge. What do you
Right.
suppose that did for the payment? It dropped it to it was like $167 payment difference. That customer took it like that. You think that they didn't buy a new car? Of course they did. And I'm
And that
thinking,
happened a lot the last couple of years. That really
I'm not
did.
insane. After all, it's just a brilliant idea. And what I'm saying is it can be staged so easy. It's self-desking capability that just offers the dealer the ability to participate. What's the big deal? It's not, to me, it's just like a no-brainer. I just see it all over the place. And then from there, Steve and I
think too, really quick, Becky, because you deserve a lot more credit on this topic about the brilliance of the idea. It's not that refinance isn't occurring. It's occurring all over the place.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
That's not, this is kind of like Apple saying, hey, we didn't create the music listening device, we made it better, right? Or we didn't create the smartphone, we made it better. Is what Becky's doing, which you deserve a lot of credit for, is this is occurring right now at a mass scale, but the dealer's not participating in it.
No.
The brilliant part, Becky, that you're doing is you're getting the dealer back in there, and there's a relationship thing, and it's something I talk about all the time, is somebody's capturing that relationship other than the dealer. You know, you just mentioned, oh my God, Brooke's on here.
Brooke is on here.
You're on mute. You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Yeah.
I am on mute. I hit the wrong button, but I apologize, better late than never. I'm here, and I am so excited to see you all. It took a while, but I'm here. Welcome.
Really good to see you.
Good to see you all.
Thank you, Brooke. Thank you.
So we're talking about facts, not feelings here, Brooke, just so you know.
It is one of my favorite topics, as you all know. One of my favorite topics. Actually, I hear you should make a podcast about it. I think you should.
We just finished a segment on wearing Jordans, and now we're getting into something else.
You guys are speaking my language. Come on, seriously, right now. What are you doing to me?
Well, you know, I think this topic
I told you.
of what you're doing, Becky, is this exists. This is a topic, but somebody else is capitalizing on it. That is a short-term thing, but they're also capitalizing. When you take an example that you just gave about what your product has done at one of your dealers, and somebody gets that kind of savings, they're going to be pretty damn grateful for it. And,
super grateful.
And when somebody outside the dealer is doing for it, it causes the reverse to happen. They look back at their dealer and like, what the hell did you do to me? Right?
Yeah.
Like, how did I get to this place? But somebody else solved it for me. Well, now when the dealer has the ability to solve it for themselves without breaking any lender agreements or anything like that, that's the brilliance of it, Becky. And you're doing such a great job with that. And I think it is another, very much in line with what we're doing, is that logical in today's environment? Yes. Is it logical in any reality? Yes. I mean, that's what makes it so great. So, you know, everybody should be considering this, irregardless of whatever the future turns out to be, that we can't predict necessarily. But then what I love about what Paul's saying is and I talk about this all the time, and I'm not being critical of data. I just say, you know, data without process is just data.
That's right.
All it is. Like, okay, good news, you got data. Okay, let's all feel bad about it and go home. And then I also say that process without data is misguided generally. So, but you put the two of those things together and you have magic. That when you have, and this speaks to, you know, Brooke language, is you have, when you have dealers that are contemplating things, you need both. You have to understand what you're doing and why, have the data to back it up, and then have the solutions that fill that need. That's the order that you do it in. And you don't get the shiny red object, as she says, and, you know, just do it without purpose. You got to have both.
And I got to say, Brooks, thank you so much for coming on tonight. I know you had to fight through this appointment, and you got here, and I said, doesn't matter, just show the heck up here, girl. But we were on After Dark with Ted Ings, and I'm like, man, I really love this girl's energy. She is like all in. And then when she started talking about that shiny object, I'm like, oh my God, we're definitely on the same page. And I'm like, you go, girl. So I just felt like, man, this is this is for you to talk about some of the things that dealers do without thinking through that and how it's going to impact what's happening in the dealership. I mean, we all go to these conferences and we like that shiny object. It seems really good, but how does it affect the workflow in the dealership? How about it, Brooke?
Hey, and before you go any further, Brooke, remember you got a tech provider on the call here too.
Oh yeah, we got. And yeah, Paul, meet Brooke.
Hi, Brooke.
Hello.
He's amazing.
Well, I've decided that I think April Simmons and I decided we're going to start a fund for 20 groups. When dealers go to 20 groups, we're like, all the money you're going to go spend on shit, just give to us, and we'll save you that money. Just give it all to us because you don't need that crap. Like, it just pumped the brakes. Like, I know that new awesome, amazing, shiny tool that is going to last all the sun, the moon, and it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Now, it may actually be the coolest thing since sliced bread, and it may actually do all the incredible things it says it's going to. It may actually do all those things. That being said, and it really may do all those things. Do you actually need that insert whatever? Do you have a broken process or do you have a broken tool? Because there's a really big difference here. So before you ever go into whatever it may be, whether it's a conference, whether it's a 20 group meeting, whether it's, hey, I got hit with 15 different emails about the same freaking thing, or our OEM is saying we have to have the same tool because the co-op says we have to have it, or whatever it may be. What is it that's broken? If nothing's broken, why are you chasing after the shiny object? Like, I just don't. I mean, I get it because I've been in this industry so long. I understand why they do it, but why are you doing this? So once, squirrel, wow, I don't know what to do here. I just don't know what to do right now, Paul. I don't know what to do. But it just drives me bonkers. Like, I was having a conversation with a dealer, one of my clients today, and I just said, and I don't know if she's watching it not right now, and I said, okay, why does so and so feel this way? Very, very key on feel this way, and blah, 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 blah. And so my recap back to this person, I just go, okay, so here's the epitome of feel versus fact, because this is what the data is saying versus what is feeling. So if let's say that dealer group decided to go, well, it's broken. Well, it's not broken. You can go chase that red shiny object all you want to go try to fix the problem. The problem is the process. It has nothing to do with the product. The product was working great. In fact, what you feel it's actually doing horrible. The facts tell an opposite story. The facts say the product you think sucks is actually doing astronomically well, but your process sucks. Absolutely. It's the process. It's the people. It's not that your people are horrible. It's just your process and how it sucks. So once again, before you go and slap a button on your site, before you do anything, look and say, what is wrong? If there's something wrong? And if there is, I cannot stress enough how insanely important it is to get all parties involved to say, okay, we are going to make a switch. This is what's going to happen. Don't just tell, all right, sales, we love all of you. We're just going to tell you. Fixed ops, sorry, we hate you. We're not going to tell you. Like, just stop dividing. A house divided cannot stand. Stop only telling one person. Cross-train and let everybody know. I can't tell you how many times I've been into a dealership and they've put in a brand new process, especially the buzzword of digital retailing. And it's like, we told one person, I'm like, you didn't let F&I know? Like, no shit, it didn't work. You got F&I pissed off now. Like, they think that they're coming for their job. Like, you've got to let all parties know and let everybody in on the secret to know what is going on. Hey, hi, Robert. You've got to let everybody know what is going on to be successful. And at every point, it's not a set it and forget it to be like, okay, now that we've got this amazing, awesome tool that's kicking ass and taking names, dude, like, everyone knows I'm a sports junkie. Like, you don't just be like, all right, we got these 98 Bulls. They're doing great. And we're just going to like, let them set it and forget it. No, they continually every single day worked at it to make sure it worked and continued to work and they're doing awesome. And so that red shiny object thing, like, yeah, I get a little heated, as you can tell when I talk about this.
It was amazing. Yeah. Digital Dealer at the keynote. That's usually about the only time I get to go to anything, and then I'm stuck in a suite the rest of the time. But the keynote.
Hold on. Oh, you poor thing. You're stuck in a suite all day long. Okay, go ahead.
I'm working.
Glad you said it. I didn't.
Is they had a panel of dealers on there, and it was so ironic because it was the keynote area was right next to where the expo hall was at. And the one dealer said very directly, so, hey, vendors, pay attention here. We don't have a customer acquisition problem right now. We have a retention problem. And what's so amazing about that is that floor, again, God love all those vendors that spent all that money, but how much of that floor is customer acquisition, just reinventing the same process over and over and over again, and how much is anything thereafter? It speaks again to our industry's direction and intent. Is the shiny red object thing, Brooke, I hope doesn't apply to me and my company. But I think it does apply to when we just keep trying to refine the same thing over and over and over and over again, and the bandwidth and time and energy we put into it, when to Brooke's point, it probably isn't broken. It probably just needs to be supported the right way, and everybody needs to be trained on it. How many times do we have to go over the same thing over and over again? And I think continuous process improvement's really smart. But I think there's the background.
Here he is. Love the car, but it's like, whoa.
But the amazing part about this red shiny object thing is it's also a distraction to our industry is really good at refining the processes that it knows or thinks they know, but we're completely missing the stuff that we're just completely missing. Refi, to Becky's point, is one of those things, just completely missing.
Yep.
F&I after the sale doesn't exist, right? F&I service engagement after the sale and service advisors being blind to what's sold in their own finance departments, ridiculous. That shouldn't exist, right? So focus, and again, my opinion's biased here because that's what we do, but focus energy on where you're going to get the greatest gains and not just trying to reinvent the wheel 1,000 times over.
So here's the thing. I absolutely adore Brooke because Steve, you and I met Steve 3 years ago and I love Steve. I mean, to tell you, he's like, yes, the man of the hour. I'm like, are you kidding me? Automate this freaking bad boy. Come on now. Make my freaking life easy. I am so done. I'm done talking about this all the time. And it just goes to, yeah, we're going to do it. And nothing ever happens, right? How many times do we have the service drive talk and how are we going to go ahead and do this after sale process program that never, ever works? So it was like, okay, Steve, I'm in, automate this bad boy. Let's make it happen. So he has done that. And he has done a terrific job automating it. It's behind the scenes. It acts, it's there, and it's producing. I knew that was going to happen. But to think that what I do, and perhaps what Brooke does as well, and also Paul, I have to work with process and behavior changes. And it's very difficult that if you're expecting a technology to do it for you,
right? That's
not what it's all about. It's got to be a part of what you are and integrate within your process and workflow. And I told him with the refi just makes all the sense in the world. We could likely automate that later on. Not to say that that's not a very good after sale opportunity. And it is, it truly is. But it should also be a part of the workflow, which requires some thinking. I said, I'm sorry, but it just does.
You're talking crazy talk now. What are you talking about? Thinking? What? You have to use common sense here? What are you talking about right now?
I love you guys. I love the car dealerships. With this is what we're talking about. I love Brooke. I'm telling you. You should have done this to me, Steve.
I always feel like, there's this tug of war that happens constantly. And sometimes, and in the best environments, two things can exist simultaneously. Is that, you can have great processes, people and processes, and you can have great technology too. And you marry the two together and it's brilliant, right? Because the technology is there to remove longstanding pain points and operational inefficiencies to make the in-person stuff work better. That's kind of the whole concept of it. It's not necessarily to replace people and to lock the front doors of the dealership, but to make the process more efficient and expand the opportunity as far as it can go. But I think about, our dealers are great. You guys, and I know everybody feels the same way about this. I honor our dealers and the support community every day and every minute that I work. I don't think every damn thing's broken, but I do think it's hard for a dealer that's super financially profitable to really be thinking about anything else, when actually this is exactly the time to really double down on all that stuff, because this false bubble that exists right now isn't going to be there forever. And
I love what Brian Benstock says it the best: fix your roof when it's sunny, not when it's raining.
It's just
I've heard that saying more than I think. I was going to say something, but I'm going to refrain from what I was just going to say there. But I've heard that saying more than just about anything I've heard, I think, ever. It's like every person that gets up and speaks on anything right now, they're like, fix your roof. I'm like, holy shit. Like, can I just get like a bucket every time someone says that? Because I think I would be making the profits the dealers are making if I heard that one more time. So yeah, 100% is true though.
Well, do you know who first said that? Anybody know?
It wasn't it FD Roosevelt or something like that, or JFK or something?
AFK.
There she goes.
Bam, bring it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
We're going to get one of those stingers.
Paul just said, I think Benstock's got the rights on it now.
Well, he's paying a hefty stock for that. Benstock is paying hefty stocks.
Yeah.
Well, the key, you all said it. When I was with DealerTrack for 13 years, my whole point was people, process, and technology. Whatever a dealer wanted to buy, I had to make sure you understood. Your people understood what you were buying and why you were buying it. Your people understand the process and why it's important to adhere to that process. And your leaders will make sure your people are adhering to that process. There's an accountability. And then the technology will work just like I told you. If you don't do those things, the technology doesn't work. Today, I'm in data.
And it's actually, for speaking from a technology company standpoint, it's obvious, I got Chris right in the room here with us, and he's in the field and with dealers every day. It's beneficial to us to do that too. Like we're not just out there trying to force technology down people's throats. We don't show up in a service drive and install apps on the service drive and then walk away. Actually, our bigger task within the dealership is to make sure everybody understands what the hell we're doing and why.
Right.
And when you get
that is so key, Steve. So key.
When you get that kind of buy-in, then, and you don't do it when the technology's failed, and then you come back and you try and save it, and people are like, well, if I only knew that in the first place, I would have embraced it. That's the first thing you do, right? And we never race in and out of dealers. That's, sometimes people look at us and they're like, how long do you want to be here again? We want to be here long enough where we can touch everybody and make sure everybody knows what we're doing and why we're doing it before we actually do it.
And there's another opportunity that we need to consider, and it's the onboarding process. How do you ensure that your technology is a part of the onboarding process? Because the dealership world, especially on the sales floor and on the desk, one of the highest turnover rates in the nation. So how do we fix that part? Get me involved in your onboarding process.
That's such a good point. So I remember in the dealership land, actually before I ever got in the dealership land, I started asking around. I just said, hey, does anybody have a checklist? Like what happens when an employee leaves or is brought on board, whether it's in dealership or whatever. And I got the like deer in a headlight. I go, that'd be a good idea. I go, would be a good idea. I go, who? So I'm in the dealership land, and I've been in the dealership. My husband's been in the dealership for 30 years. And so I'm in the dealership and I just go, this is ridiculous. And I have a very far reach, and I'm asking, and nobody has this. I just go, how in the world is this possible? So I created a whole, and I was like, how does HR not have this? So I created a whole, like when this happens, when an employee is hired, this, and this happens. When someone's terminated, like from a security standpoint, how does no one do this? So I had all this, and I was like, okay, so when the OEM decides to have a crisis and change their logo 15 times, does anybody go through and check this shit? No. I go, okay. What about when you change, because everyone changes their providers like more than they change their freaking underwear. What happens then? Same thing with onboarding. Okay, what about this? What when you go through a buy sell? So I have an entire checklist that now when I go through, same thing when I onboard my clients, it's like a 200-line thing of what everything that has to go. So I remember I'm working with Dealer Inspire, and they just go, "This is using Brooke language here, a 4-letter word. Like, this is incredible." I go, how has no one done this? Like, am I the only person doing this? Like, and I know I'm not the only person doing this, but it's like, this needs to be standardized. Like, go through, like, I know that I'm super OCD. I'm fully aware of that, but going through and sharing this information, because it's a nightmare. Because then when you change stuff, like, don't even get me started when you're trying to change stuff and be like, okay, I would like access to your GM. Now it's Google. Speaking of identity crisis, Google, whatever they want to call themselves now, your Google, your Facebook, and trying to get that is a nightmare. And trying to figure and change hats, that is a complete cluster. Yep. So onboarding is so key. And going back to like partnerships, like when I say, if I'm going to put my seal of approval on something, it means that if I have a dealership, I'm going to bring you on. But I have to know, okay, if I'm bringing strategic DX in, or if I'm bringing Black Book in, or if I'm bringing insert whatever, I know that dealership's a good fit for now. Now I may have all the faith in the world because I love Steve and Steve's product is phenomenal, but I know Dealer X, they're stuck in newspaper land. So there's no way that they would be a good partner. So there's no way I'm going to put these two together, because I'm setting both up for failure. So we have to be very, very careful on how, when you're bringing people in, because it may, like, once again, it may be the greatest things in sliced bread, but it's just not a good partnership. So why set it up for
I love everything you said, and I don't have Steve words. I don't think I have Steve words. And my quote is not as good as JFK, but Becky's heard me say this a lot. It's part of what we have to do, all of us, is ask, then what? So there's a process thing in a dealership. We sold the customer a car, maybe an F&I product or two. Then what? What's supposed to happen next? For our company, okay, somebody signed up to subscribe to our platform. Then what? What's supposed to happen next? We have to have that process dialed in. Okay, now they've integrated with the platform. Then what? What's supposed to happen next, right? And another thing you said, Brooke, which really speaks to me as an entrepreneur in the industry, there's so many things that I've come across that have shaped what we do, that on first blush, I'm like, does this really exist? And then you got to really research the hell out of it to either validate it or not, right? And there's so many things that when I first touched it, I'm like, there's no way that this is the way it is. It can't be this way, right? The F&I segment that we do a lot of work with, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. How the hell does this exist? Right.
Well, here's the thing that I think that why can't we do a better job with? And I love where Brooke and everyone's coming from, but why don't you know what your workflow is? Why aren't you taking the time to write that workflow out and have an executive team coming together to determine?
Changes.
This thing Brooke just did with
leadership sweeps clean always.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Paul, what?
A dealer hires a new GM or a new desk manager. They come in and they
reset. Yeah,
they swipe everything clean. They don't care about what the process the dealers put in place. They want to put their stamp on it. When reality is the dealers spend a lot of money on some really fantastic technology.
I love that Brian Pash and Brooke and this whole group just did this with the Google Analytics 4. Like, okay, there's this whole new thing. What do we do with it? Right. How is it supposed to work? Right. And it's a significant topic, but it's interesting that there had to be this concerted effort to bring people together and solve that topic. And
well, look at Brian Kramer. Look at what he did.
Yeah.
2-3 years ago, during COVID. So he got his team. He rolled up his sleeves is what he did and went to work.
Right. And that constant communication with your team members. One of my data partners and SaaS providers told me that they spend 4 hours every morning on the development side, going through a workflow, understanding, asking, then what, right? If, then, so what, all the way through.
Amen.
And it got me thinking, I was like, I wonder how many SaaS partners put a process like that together. So when they sell their technology, that they give it to the dealer, said, here's what you need to follow. Here's the workbook. And I'll take it a step further. we did this for a little bit at Dealer Track, and it worked when the leadership was always there. But when it was a change, there was no accountability to keep it there. So even having a workbook, you still need to have that kind of follow-up to do it.
I'm not sure where this quote comes from. This is Brian Kramer. He says it so matter-of-factly, but I think it's his secret sauce, or was with Jermaine, which is burn all the ships in the harbor.
Yeah.
And the ships in the harbor are the processes that used to exist. And the idea, and I've heard people try to talk about this, but it's pretty simple, which is if you leave all those processes in place while you're trying to implement something new, then your people will see that you're not fully committed to whatever the transition is. But if you get rid of all those processes and fully commit, your team will be fully committed, as you are too. And that's something that, that's leadership personified. Right. Like, we're
Big
doing
time.
we're doing this, or was it Vegas or bust, right? We're one way or another, we're going to show up there. And that, I think that's the secret sauce is, and I see that with dealerships and partners that we have. If I ever feel, to Brooke's point, would you call them newspaper land or whatever?
Yeah. I still have dealerships that say, "Oh, if I could just go back to newspapers," I was like, "Dude, then get your Sharpie and Foursquare and go there." Like, I don't know why we're even. I don't know what to tell you, dude. I don't know what to tell you.
But I'm always, Chris, what is it? Unapologetically disruptive. Who said that? Richard Branson. Is the the concept of, if I ever have somebody in my life that just wants to put their toe in the water, I'm not really interested.
Not gonna work.
It's these things that we represent are so vastly missing, and we're way past proof of concept with this thing. That in order to really adopt it and embrace it, you do have to train your people. You got to let everybody know why you're doing it, and you do have to burn the ships in the harbor and move along.
I don't know if anyone's had the chance to see Brian Kramer. This is going back, probably first quarter. He and a bunch of us did a metaverse show, and we actually went into the metaverse and the whole show in there because it's Brian Kramer. Why wouldn't you do a show in the metaverse? I mean, come on. Right. And he was showing me the whole flow of how whatever, and it was like, I've seen GMs and owners do things. I have never, to this day, seen a GM do something. Talk about if, then, what? The whole flow chart of how this is how everything is done, whether it's through metaverse, whether it's DR, whether it was so in depth. And I just go, yeah. And I say that because, one, it was so impressive. So, I mean, Brian, you're incredible. You don't need another pat on the back. Brian, you're awesome. I'm going to say it anyways. I say that because even if we had said, okay, everyone, here's the secret sauce to how Jermaine did it, not everyone's going to do it because of how our industry is. One, we've got newspaper land people. We have, I'm making so much money. I don't need to do that anyways. I'm still not going to show price, or I'm still going to do whatever. So even if we gave everyone the secret sauce, they're still not going to do it. We'd still give them the perfect pitch, and they would whiff. They just wouldn't do it. I'm a big Yankees fan, and they would still not. They could have Aaron Judge, and they still wouldn't hit the home run because they'd be like, I'm good. I'm not going to do it. Like, it's just not going to happen. So that's what's so crazy about this is, like, we can give them everyone that's all the tips in the world. We can give them everything they have. Here's the flow chart has been made as easy as possible for you, and they'd be like, I'm good. Like, what? What just happened here?
I think the market that's coming, right? All the dealers that have been incredibly profitable will have some money left over to face the hurricane, the tornadoes, the twist, everything it's coming. I mean, it is coming. Friday, I told you guys, the top 6 banks set aside on nearly $5 billion for bad debt. They already know they got the bad debt, right? So how do we communicate? How do we help our dealers get prepared for that too? Because they've not been. I mean, I showed you guys my image 2 weeks ago with the head in the sand, right? That the car guy head stuck in the sand, his ass is hanging out. You can ignore the facts, but you still got your ass exposed.
This is rhetorical, and again, it's not to be critical of our industry, but when people say the automotive industry is resilient, Does that mean we pivot where we have to pivot, or does that mean, with your analogy, that we just good at weathering the storm?
I think it's about 50-50.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
this is going to be different though.
Good
yeah.
one.
When we entered 2007, we had just right at 20,000 some odd dealers. We came out of that recession with less than 16,000. We got up to 18,000. When we leave this recession, I think we're going to be below 16. My only question is who's going to be left standing.
Oh yeah, I mean, you look at, so this is an interesting fact, and I don't have all the data on this one, but I've seen enough trends to know where it's going. So you look at the dealers that have said, "Hey, I know what's going on this year," and have worked with it versus drunk on profit. There's a big difference. So, and
I
I've
like
seen
that one.
yeah, it's been, so you've seen the reputation, and you've seen, I have stores that have started they were at a 4.9 reputation, and that's across all platforms. And now they were at like, thousands of reviews. So to go from you have 1,000, it takes a lot to go up and down when you've got thousands of reviews. And now they're at a 4.2. That takes a lot of reviews to go the other direction. And this is not just one store. I'm seeing this trend across the nation. So when you see that and you're like, okay, wait a second. So eventually you just don't care. You don't give a shit. And it's not just my stores. I've seen this across the trend across the nation. Then you see other stores. Okay, it's going to happen. And it's okay on how it's all about approaching things. Like it's all about how you approach things. And I won't get into the whole price thing like that, whatever. It's how you come out the other side. Like, how are you going to be when this all, because the pendulum, that's what's our industry is such that it always swings back one way or another. Like it always comes, it's here and then it's here. And then we got Sir Tully. Shout out to Sir Tully and his, hold up. We have Sir
Yay! Oh,
There
she
you
got
go.
a magazine. Oh, look at her. That's awesome.
Mute.
Yeah, you hit a buzzer. Not yet. Something buzzed when you grabbed the magazine.
I agree. We are busting our ass to just break out, making dollars on back end, but just getting out in front. And we have been aggressively pricing to market. Any additional suggestions?
Yes. Please
Okay.
message me and I'll send you a copy of the Black Book Market Insights to get you updated to the latest data about everything in the marketplace today.
Perfect. And what is your email address?
It's paul.machin@blackbook.com. MACHIN, no E.
All right. Let me see.
Steve, I thought that's what you were going to call me.
Paul Machin
The Machine, because everyone else knows me as the Machine.
at what?
I would go to,
Blackbook.com.
where do you get URLs secure? I'd go get Mr. Blackbook if I were you.com. Too funny.
I guess
Brooke, it sounded like you had an audio like buzz or something.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I honestly don't. I may have hit a button on my Stream Deck. I don't know what happened there, but it like all of a sudden it came up that I was having no mic, and I was like, well, my mic is. I don't know. Apparently, Sir Tully is so powerful he knocked out my mic, so I don't.
Right.
I got nothing here. But we're back. We're back. So, anyways, yeah, it's just very interesting. Is that at the end of the day, is that the main bullet point there is that the pendulum always swings back, whether it's 2008, whether it's before, it always swings. And I don't know where the medal's going to be. I have no idea that I am no crystal ball or 8 ball. What is it? I don't know.